the work we do ourselves as parents on our own attachment history, understanding our own triggers, taking care of our own disappointments or expectations, and integrating our history is key to being present to our children and having the ability to connect with them without parenting out of our own triggers.
Right.
So I believe that parenting is much about us as it is about our children.
Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. I'm a summer camp director, writer, and speaker, and I've had the privilege of working with thousands of children, teenagers, young adult counselors, and parents over the past 3 decades. My husband Steve and I are raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 15 to 25. So my interest in raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults is personal as well as professional. I'm so excited for the arrival soon of my new book, Happy Campers: 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults. I really appreciate this endorsement from Signa Whitson, who is an author and international educator on bullying prevention and a school psychologist. Signa says, "Although I just got my copy of Happy Campers by Audrey Monkey, you would think I had owned it for years already, given the multitude of dog-eared pages, the massive amount of notes in the margins, and the number of parents I've already lent the book to, urging them to read specific sections. Happy Campers is the brand new but already well-worn book I wish I had 20 years ago when I first started my career working with children and families. It is full of practical, realistic, easy to implement, no-cost, research-based, transformational strategies that will help parents and caregivers bring the magic of summer camp into daily home interactions. Happy Campers shines a light on 9 overall positive practices used in quality summer camps and offers readers dozens and dozens of ways to use these strategies to help kids and families thrive year-round. Starting with ideas for building nurturing connections between family members, and then exploring critical topics such as the importance of optimism in interactions, how to nurture grit and determination, helping kids experience independence and grow their individual identities, making kindness cool, building healthy friendship skills, and cultivating the kind of self-confidence that makes kids unstoppable. Monkey's book is as realistic and readable as it is invaluable. As a school counselor, therapist, and parent, Happy Campers is everything I could hope for in a book and more. I highly recommend it for anyone living or working with young people. For ordering information, visit happycampersbook.com. You'll find links to different retailers who will be carrying Happy Campers, and you can pre-order your copy now. In episode 83, I'm talking with parent educator Sloan Walsh about raising boys. I had the opportunity to sit down with Sloan after visiting her parent education class, which she teaches in La Cañada, California. Sloan has been teaching parent education classes since 2001. She is passionate about teaching moms and dads creative approaches to parenting through an understanding of the brain, mind, and body, with an emphasis on living and loving from our whole hearts. Sloan obtained her degree from UCSB and her credential from Cal State Northridge. She spent a number of years as an early literacy instructor, training teachers, working with credential programs in local universities, guest lecturing at various venues, and collaborating with parents and teachers to promote literacy in the community. She is passionate about her 3 kids and partnering with her husband in all their endeavors. In her free time, Sloan loves to exercise, indulge in creativity, and spend time with friends. I hope you learn some great tips and get some encouragement from my conversation with Sloan Walsh on raising boys. Well, today I'm really excited to have Sloan Walsh. I'm here with her live. Actually, she has been a parenting educator for how many years?
15 years.
For 15 years, and just had so much fun. I got to visit your parenting class. You work with parents of kids in grades 1 through 4, right?
Kindergarten through 4th.
Kindergarten through 4th grade. And so tell me, how did you get into this parenting education?
I began coming to this program that we have here in La Cañada, California. When my son was a toddler, I brought him to the toddler class. And we have classes in our program for mothers of infants up through high school.
It's amazing.
And I started with a toddler class, and I thought this would be a great mom job. I'd stopped teaching for a while to stay home with him, and they needed a teacher, and I started teaching in 2001, and I taught the toddler classes, and then I worked my way up through the preschool classes, and now I'm doing the parent-only classes where parents come without their children on a weekly basis.
Oh, it's so great. What an amazing program for your community to have this available.
Yeah,
I feel
fantastic.
like this would be so beneficial in so many places. Yeah. Well, we got to know each other through camp, actually. You were up at camp touring with a friend, and we met and found out that we have this mutual connection with Tina Payne Bryson and the Center for Connection, and really hit it off. And then I had you come up and train counselors last summer.
So much fun.
It was great having you. And one of the things we did is we had you work with the female counselors and talk to them about working with girls, and then the male counselors and about working with boys. And I sat in on both and just really, really enjoyed what you had to say. So I've asked you today to talk about raising boys, because I feel like lately I have spent more time on girls for whatever reason. Some of the people I've interviewed, just books that I've read, have been more girl focused. And, you know, our boys need some attention right now.
I agree. And I don't think there really are a lot of things coming out for boys right now. And over the last 10 years, it's all about raising strong girls, which has been needed and wonderful. But as a mother of 2 boys, I have been really mindful of talking about how do we raise boys so they succeed in this day and age with the brains that they have, the developmental needs that they have. And so it's one of my favorite topics now.
And it was funny, my sister and I were just having this conversation that some of the things with girls have left boys in kind of a limbo. Like, what are they supposed to do? How are we supposed to raise them now, given like these things that are going on with girls and Me Too and all this stuff? It's complicated.
Well, and it's changing. Times are changing in a good way, in a great way. However, what I asked my son, who's 20, before he went back to school, he's in college right now, a sophomore, and I said, hey, are there any girls that you're interested in dating at school? Just wanted to kind of check in with him. And he said, yeah. But I asked him about how he was going to go about pursuing one girl. He goes, Mom, a lot of us guys, we don't do that. We wait for them to come to us. Right. We don't have to pursue girls. They come to us. And I thought there's been such a shift and it unsettled me a little bit, because I wanted to train him to be a man who courts a girl and treats her like and thankfully he really does do that. He's a gentleman.
Right.
But a lot of boys can sit back and girls are taking the initiative. And, so boys, I think, are in a place of, I'm not quite sure what that looks like. Do I wait or do I take initiative?
Right.
And
there's a couple books coming out, or one that my sister's reading that I'm going to butcher the name. So something like The Boy Crisis, I think it's called. And I'll put links in the show notes to these couple books. And then I actually have another one that someone who's coming on my podcast, that's something about boys or raising boys. So I'm going to be on this topic for a little bit while now. So your boys are how old now?
20 and 18.
2018. And I have 18 and 15-year-old boys. Okay. So we're kind of in the thick of this kind of adolescent, young adult time with our boys. So let's talk about just some of the things that you taught our counselors. Like, what is it that boys need?
Now we have so much research on the brain, and we have discovered there is a difference between a male brain and a female brain. There is also so much that has come out on what testosterone does and how it affects our boys. And there is a wide spectrum of boys. All types of boys are, out in our world. And we want to make sure we really raise happy, healthy, well-adjusted men. But what we're finding is with all that research, it comes down to a few things. Boys need adventure. They need a purpose. They need a rite of passage, something they can do that will tell them, yes, I am an adult now. I am able to do this. I can do this. They need that nurturing time with mom. They need a solid bond with a mother who, Steve Biddulph in his book, Raising Boys, he says that moms are the first girlfriend, the practice girlfriend, and really lay a foundation for all future relationships with girls, friends, but also romantic relationships. And how also mothers teach boys self-regulation and that soothing, comforting, bonding experience with their mom. They need dads who are present and involved. Many boys will lock on to their dads at about the age of 6 or 7 and will do all they can to get their father's attention. They are watching dads, coaches, and teachers what it means to be a man and what it looks like. But that attention from a dad is huge, teaching them skills and just that bond.
And probably just that somebody to watch, like emulate. Like, this is what a man does. There's that country song about the kid who spilled something and said a bad word. And the dad said, how did you learn that? And he's like, I've been watching you. I'm going to be just like you, Dad. that just came to mind when you were saying that. I just do think little boys are looking at their dad or like picking up a hammer or learning how to do something. You know, they really do want to,
a lot of times, attention from their dad. And in this day and age, a lot of dads are really busy and really, I mean, the demands on fathers right now is so much. If they can get that quality time, and it doesn't necessarily have to be hours, but to get that check-in time every day. I know you talk about that.
Yes, you can. The one-on-one check-ins with the dads.
Check-in, and then if they can teach them a skill, and do something together. Boy Scouts is a great way for dads and boys to spend time together.
You know, one thing that I've been talking a lot with, I find myself having this conversation a lot with parents, is that it's really nice for each parent to have something that they do with each child. That's like, it's their own thing, something they enjoy together. And it can be different things. And like you said, boys can be all different and have different interests. So like, you know, some kids, like some boys, like my son actually was really good at sewing. He took sewing and he was really good at it. And like, you know, that kind of thing. And there's like, he's more like sports more, but in like 7th grade, I picked him up from school. He's like, can we stop and get supplies to make a pie? Because he had learned how to make a pie at school and in his home ec class. I'm like, sure. And so it's like, that's kind of a fun thing if you can find one hobby that you can maybe even keep up throughout like adolescence. So, you know, like the traditional thing people talk about going fishing, you know, whatever. So maybe you like fishing. It could be mountain biking. It could be skiing. It could be, you know, whatever. It could be a craft. But whatever it is, how nice if you have that one thing that you like to do together. You like to bake together or whatever. And I think it's with boys and girls and moms and dads. It can be whatever, but how nice if you have your thing.
That is huge.
You know, have a thing.
That's that very thing that they will take with them into adulthood and remember doing that with their parent.
Yes.
That'll be the happy moment, the happy memory.
Yes.
That's so huge.
Yes.
Now, boys also, in addition to these things, they need mentors and coaches and other men in their life. About the age 14, boys, there will be an increase of testosterone, 800% increase in testosterone.
Okay.
And at the same time, the brain is pruning. So teenage boys at that age do lock heads with their dads. That's when things start kind of becoming a little more difficult in the relationship with their father. It's great if there's an uncle or a great coach or someone who can step in to teach them how to drive or do something that is really tough for the dad and the son maybe to work together. Coaches and mentors, people who will invest in their lives when the relationship can get a little rocky. At that age, boys will distance themselves from their moms and they will lock heads with their dads. It's natural, it's normal, it's developmental. Their brains are going through so many changes and the hormones are really changing their bodies and their brains. An increase in testosterone does cause aggression more. And also you'll notice with boys about that age, they kind of have a dopey kind of checked out mentality. And it's because there's so much going on in their brains.
Right.
The good news is they do come back.
Oh, yeah, they do. And you can watch them. You can actually watch it. And I'm sure you've seen that too. Like where I think it's around like 13, 14, where people start going, what happened to my cute little sweet boy? And then
it's so
like
sad.
A year or two goes by and then they're like, oh, look, I see glimmers. You're back.
Right.
You're coming back.
I got a text from my 20-year-old. He just put, I love you, Mama. And it melted my heart so much. I thought, he is back.
Yes.
He's back. He wants to spend time with me.
Yes.
He communicates with me.
Yes.
He shares his feelings with me more.
Right.
He's a real kind of strong, silent type. Mm-hmm. So during those years, it was really hard to get to his heart.
Right. Right.
He was checked out. He was spending a lot of time doing his beloved sport, and coming and going. And it really, for a while there, I thought, am I teaching him anything? Is he getting anything?
Right.
Now I'm seeing glimmers of it.
Yeah. But that's also part of, and I think parents, I mean, we all know this. We all went through it ourselves. Mm-hmm. That's that becoming your own person thing. Yeah. It's a messy process, to kind of separate from your parents and become your own person and figure out what you believe and what you want and who you are separate from them. Yeah. That's a part of development for boys and girls. And so I think it's good for parents to recognize that it's normal for them to see that either pushback or pulling back or whatever you see it in your child, that behavior that sometimes is worrisome. It's actually really normal.
It's really normal.
Yeah.
And I think we also will benefit greatly if before they hit those years to parent from a real connected space.
Yes.
Authoritarian parenting, where we use a lot of punishment and rigidity, we might get really great behavior up until about that age. And then what happens is children will go underground in order to do their developmental process of creating autonomy, like separating themselves. Right. So what happens is then you get a more risky behavior.
Yes.
And you get kids exploring different types of activities that we might find more shocking and a little dangerous, especially if we've been very controlling for our children. Beforehand, the goal is to lay a foundation of connectedness and just a connection to their hearts and to parent from a place of coaching, not controlling.
So what does that look like when you're thinking about like a little boy? Like I know you work with your kindergarten through fourth graders. What are some of the things that you advise parents with their little boys? What are things that they can do to kind of build that connection with them?
I think, well, number one, like you said, getting that one-on-one time with your boy, both mom and dad, building that special thing you do together, and having that kind of relationship will carry you through the difficult teen years. But also, I really recommend parenting with a whole brain approach to parenting, which I have gleaned so much from Tina Payne Bryson in her books. The whole brain child, the yes brain, coaching our children, understanding that it's all about skill building, and understanding that bad behavior, or what we call bad behavior, any kind of bad behavior, is a message to us telling us the skill that this child is learning. Right. It's all part of the process. The work we do ourselves as parents on our own attachment history, understanding our own triggers, taking care of our own disappointments or expectations, and integrating our history is key to being present to our children and having the ability to connect with them without parenting out of our own triggers. Right. So I believe that parenting is much about us as it is about our children.
What do you think about, there's a lot of talk and research that people parent boys different from the way they do parent girls. What are some of the things that we do with boys that is either helping or not helping, with their development?
Right. I remembered pushing my grocery cart through the grocery store with my two little boys. They were 20 months apart, running all over, grabbing things. I was just like, to get through the grocery store was crazy. And I would see a mom with girls. They were sitting perfectly in the cart, coloring little books, and feeling judgment from them, like I cannot control my children. Boys require so much more activity. Testosterone does breed a lot of activity. So your question was that
one of the things
we have to understand.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is I have been noticing, and what I've been learning and kind of through camp, we're finding that boys are being kind of told in one way or another that there's only really one acceptable emotion, and that's anger. That aggression and that anger, that if they're feeling sad, what do people tell boys when they're crying, when they're 5 years old?
Well, it's this unwritten rule of what a real man acts like.
Yes.
Rosalind Weissman talks about this in her book,
Masterminds and Wingmen. Yeah.
There are these unwritten rules in boy culture.
Yes.
That boys, when we give them the message, for example, of not to cry, here we are in this day and age, we want to raise emotionally intelligent men. We forget how important it is to give our boys the words for their emotions and to not deny or dismiss emotions. Michael Thompson, his book, Raising Cain, protecting the emotional life of boys. Men have deep emotional lives.
Yes.
They have inner lives. How it is they are able to express them. It gets beaten down through the years. And we are, thankfully, we've come a long way. However, we have a long way to go.
Yes.
There are these unwritten rules in man culture. One is not to cry, not to show weakness.
Right.
Not to snitch. Do not, if you tattle in first grade, I'll tell you what, after a few months, you will not be included maybe in the laser tag birthday party. There are situations that happen, and we need to actually, first of all, educate boys that crying is actually really important if you feel an emotion, but also give our boys some resiliency, teach them how to handle the pressures and the messages that are constantly being given them about what it means to be male.
Yeah, for sure. I know that at camp,
that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, one of the things that the boys, they end up really liking it is just sitting around the campfire and having this mentor who's, a few years older and kind of cool, the counselors, and they get really vulnerable and really talk about things. And there are some tears, and it's like the best thing ever. I love that because I think there are very few settings where boys feel comfortable sharing feelings or, sharing stories about things that maybe have been challenging or even things they're proud of, just to be in a setting where they can say like what they're really feeling. I feel like that's the most valuable thing that happens at camp for the boys is just that opportunity to be with other men, other young men or, and role models and just talk and express feelings, because in the general world, it's like, it's okay to yell at sports and it's okay to, yell during a video game. But in general, boys don't, like women and girls, we're like it's normal for us to be with a friend and cry or telling a story that's emotional and get teary. And then our friend gets teary with us. Like, we're in the same kind of emotional state together. Very few boys have that kind of friendship with another man and men too.
My theory about groups of boys and dynamics like that and why camp is such a valuable experience, the higher the attachment, the higher the connection, then the higher the safety, the more connection and the more expressive of emotions, and it's safe to be vulnerable.
Right.
The lower the connection, the lower the attachment. If boys are coming to a school setting or a church setting or whatever setting, and it's in a culture where there's very low attachment and connection in the homes or in the environment, the rise of aggression, dominance, bullying, and pecking order, like the whole who's in charge. Boys need to know in a group who's in charge, what are the rules, and are the rules going to be followed? That's seems to be universal in boy group. I think it has to do with testosterone. I think it goes back to our primitive brains for survival and group survival. So we need strong leaders.
Yeah, I remember you telling the male counselors that. They need to know that you're in charge of the group. It makes them feel better knowing, okay, this is the guy that's in charge.
Yes.
And then this is what I need to do. And this is how everything works.
Without that, you'll have gang mentality. You'll have one boy in the group rise. And he might be really a great leader, or he might be a bully.
Right.
He'll rise and he'll set the tone.
Right.
But if you have a teacher, a coach, a camp counselor, in the setting who is setting a tone and is in charge and does follow through with the rules, the boys will feel much more safe. They'll go, okay, I can rest now and I can follow this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. They need that positive leader who's going to allow them to, they can know that they're going to be safe if they share something, that they're not going to be made fun of.
Exactly. And a leader who will cry or who will show emotion, who will model that.
Yes.
Our boys need that so much right now.
Oh my gosh. I know. It's so true. And then they become, I think, one of the things, my younger son, it's just like growing up with older sisters. And I just think it's a personality thing too, but he's very adept at talking. And when you were talking about that little thing, like being like someone's like your little boyfriend when they're a little kid. And it was so weird. This week on Facebook, a picture popped up of the mother-son dance from his kindergarten. Okay. And I saw the photo and I had written a whole thing about this because everything in my children's childhood is just a blur because there were so many of them and so much going on and I don't remember. But I remember that night, he was like the best date. I mean, I remember, and of course, this is before the teenage years. It's going to get me teary thinking about it. But we're dancing and he would not let go of either of my hands when we were dancing. His eyes were like locked on mine. And I remember in this gym just going, oh my gosh, he's going to be such a great husband one day. I know that's so stupid, but that was my thought. Like, oh my gosh, look at this sweet guy who, he's taking this date very seriously.
Yes, they love that. They want that. And, my 18-year-old son, he's a big foodie. He takes me all over LA to restaurants.
That's awesome.
We go on dates.
Yeah, it's great.
And we have this thing together that
so
only
fun.
he and I have.
Yeah.
And I think it's huge for our relationship.
Oh,
We're
isn't
so
that great?
attached because of that.
Yeah.
Lastly, I know we have to go, but the other thing that's really important, and I feel like in our culture, is that rite of passage experience.
Yes.
Cultures around the world.
Yes, all have something.
They have something to give a 14-year-old boy, 13-year-old boy, that message that you're the man. And I think that's something our culture needs to work on. And I have been really mindful of that for my boys.
Yeah, so like in the Jewish tradition, it's the bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah. Is it really like that here though now? Like, is it considered that like you're a man?
In the Jewish tradition, they do.
Yes,
bar mitzvahs.
Definitely.
I was thinking this when I was doing my research on this whole area and my son was graduating from high school. I was thinking, I wish that we had that. I ended up creating something like that for my son right before he graduated. We invited all the men, pastors, coaches, teachers, uncles, to our home. We had a dinner and we had asked them each to speak into his life. And give him words of wisdom. It was life-changing. For the men, it was life-changing. It was life-changing for our son.
Oh, I love that. I wish I had done that with my daughters. I always thought that we should do that with everyone.
Everyone
there
needs
should
that.
Be. Everyone needs
the community.
That yes.
We need the community to all say, we believe in you.
Yes.
You are the man or you are the woman.
Yes.
We believe in you.
And this is what we see in you, too.
This is what we see in you.
This is what our counselors do. Oh, my gosh. This reminds me. Our graduating campers, this is what the counselors do at we have a little private graduation ceremony, and the counselors speak about the strengths and what they see in that camper. And I just realized, these are kids going into 10th grade, so it is around that 15 or whatever, but I didn't realize that it is a rite of passage.
It's a rite of passage.
Yes, it's like
a rite of passage can also be, my son got his job at Starbucks. He saved up money, he bought his own car, and he came to one of my classes and we interviewed him on the rite of passage thing. And he said, that was my right. I knew I was a man when I bought my own car. I was able to do it myself. It was also when he passed an AP exam. He thought he wouldn't pass. He goes, when I did that, my husband said, all boys need something to do something where the outcome isn't guaranteed. So it's, take
a little risk. Yes.
It's sliding into home base. You don't know, when you do it, it's life-changing.
Right.
So we need to create that for our boys in our culture more and more.
Maybe we need to ask schools and camps and churches and other institutions to help with this, because I feel like I love that idea of yours. It's like if you could share that with other people and they could all set it up. And, some people won't organize it like you did. But what if, the school does that and they somehow figure it out for the kids where they have the meaningful mentors and people who've worked with this group of kids and they meet with just the boys and, the girls are separate and they do something where they kind of speak into them. It's sort of like on a retreat. Like I know they often have senior retreats for high schoolers. It would be great if there was a little bit of consistency in this, because when you think about kids who maybe don't have a father or don't really have the home life or that kind of leadership at home. I would love to see our community coming around these kids more and providing that, because like you said, everybody really needs somebody to give them that, like, okay,
I believe in you.
I believe in you. You can do this.
This is what I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard, but you know what I think the military does that. They have boot camp, and then
it's hard. It has to be, and I think for boys, that whole adventure piece, there needs to be something physical or intellectual, something they overcome.
Yes.
And they do it. And that's why I think summer camp is so fantastic, because boys need to conquer the ropes course.
Absolutely.
Learn how to water ski when there's that water is really refreshing, to jump in, and it can be a lot to take that risk. I think boys really need outdoor experiences where there's adventure and purpose, and they prove to themselves. Right. And I'm speaking to, I have two kinds of boys. I have one boy who all gusto, sports.
Yeah.
I have another child who really he's a sensitive guy. He's the
foodie?
Yes.
I was going to say, I could tell.
He's the one who bought his car. That was his rite of passage. Yeah. He pulls away from any kind of adventure because it was not successful for him. It was hard. He had some.
But food can be an adventure too. That's what I mean. This is the thing. It's like when you say adventure means like exploring things and risk taking and whatever. And that could be spicy foods.
It can be, but there's also that element of conquering something you don't know if you will be able to do.
Right.
And if you do it, you will always go back. When you face challenges in your 40s, you'll go back and
remember that
say,
time.
I stayed in the game, even though I knew we were losing and I dropped the ball.
Yep.
I stayed in the game. You will draw on that when you're 45.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Working in a business, on a business deal. And I think our boys need those kind of experiences.
Oh, they sure do. We'll do this again, Sloan. This has been so much fun, and we can talk much longer. We'll do a part 2 at some point.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. I really enjoyed my conversation with Sloan, and I hope you found it helpful as well as you raise or work with boys. We talked about so many resources, and there are a lot of great books and resources out there about raising boys. Links to many of them are on my website at sunshine-parenting.com. Search for episode 83. I'll end this episode with the words of Rosalind Wiseman from her book, Masterminds and Wingmen, helping our boys cope with schoolyard power, locker room tests, girlfriends, and the new rules of boy world. Wiseman says, "The stakes are so high. Our boys deserve meaningful relationships, the freedom to pursue what interests and challenges them, a feeling of belonging and social connection to others, and a sense that they're contributing to something larger than themselves. Those 4 criteria make up the definition of happiness. If we allow our boys to pursue those 4 goals, I believe they will grow into men who will make us and themselves proud."
This podcast is a proud member of Parents on Demand, a network of high-quality shows for families just like yours. Download our free network app on Apple and Android and listen to your favorite episodes on the go.